Hello everyone, it's SpawnPoiint and the time has finally come. This is my first ever gaming PC, and today I want to talk you through the build, the specs, the setup process, well, everything really, and of course show you some gaming on it as well. I also want to talk about my experience so far coming from being a console-only gamer and why I chose this build. Oh, and can I just say that although the RGB vibe looks pretty cool, being able to customize and turn everything off for that stealth look is awesome. Now, I'd like to say a massive thank you to both Nvidia and PC Specialist who have sponsored and helped me out today, which meant I was able to create this incredible PC. But any questions or ideas you've got about my PC, please drop those in the comments below. So you might know this already, but when it comes to building a PC, there are two ways you can do this. The first is to buy all of the parts separately, then build it yourself at home. And the second option is to use a PC configurator that will show you what components will fit each case or motherboard, so it kind of takes the guesswork out of it. Well, as this is my first gaming PC, I actually went down the route of using a configurator to ensure everything would work and look good. And that's where PC Specialist helped me out. So you can either configure a custom PC or choose one of their pre-built PCs. Basically, you go onto their website and you can literally select the case, processor, motherboard and everything you want. And as you're going through it, it will check if each component is compatible with everything you're trying to build. I'll talk you through the actual specs and what I went for in a second, but once I'd selected everything and placed the order, they then start the build and stress test it. And what's really cool is once they've built it, they actually send you a 360-degree image of the PC, so if there was anything I wanted to change, now would be the time to do that. Then a few days later, it turned up and I can now show you exactly what I went for. So as it was already built, all I needed to do was remove the PC from the packaging and read through the setup instructions. Now as you could imagine, every item that was installed would normally come with their own bundle of accessories or instructions. So what PC Specialists do is include those in their welcome pack. So that's pretty cool that you're still getting everything that you would have got if you bought each component separately, obviously just not the boxes. Okay, so the first thing I needed to do was remove the side panel by removing these two screws on the back. Then inside we have some transport packaging they fit to protect the internals during delivery. All we need to do is remove these, then pop the panel back on and we are ready to switch it on. Obviously, as this is a new PC, I just need to run through the normal Windows setup process, including any updates that were needed. I also went ahead and installed things like Steam and Epic and a few games, but before that, let me talk about the actual build. So believe it or not, the thing I spent the most time choosing was actually the case. I literally spent weeks deciding what look I wanted to go for, then eventually went full circle and chose the first case that I saw, and that's the Fractal North XL. Now what I like about this is it doesn't look like a gaming PC, which is kind of what made me choose it. I went for the all black case, which comes with a real walnut paneling on the front. It's also got some really nice details and features on it, like the brass buttons across the top and 3 USB ports, including a USB-C port as well. And there's even a false leather tab on the back for pulling the top cover off. And if you look underneath, it's got these nice black and brass feet lifting it up very slightly as well. But first impressions, the size of this thing is pretty big when you compare it to something like the PlayStation 5. And that is something that completely caught me off guard when I first set it up. And now let me quickly show you the cable management on this thing. So if you pop the side panel off, you can see how neat it is back here. And that's for two reasons really. One is that the case itself has these cool little grommets that let you pass the cables through. This keeps them easily accessible back here as well. And secondly, when it was put together by PC Specialists, they seriously took their time making it look this good. It also makes adding additional drives easier and improves the airflow on some cases. So yeah, this is the type of cable management that gets the SpawnPoiint approval. But on the whole, I feel like this case was literally designed for me with that nice clean and minimal vibe. And it also means if I want to move it to the living room, it looks good in here as well. As for the specs, well let me start by saying I wanted something that could play 4K and 120Hz, as well as the option to run a few games at 2 to 300 FPS, as I really want to test out this 480Hz monitor. So let's start with the GPU. I've got the Nvidia GeForce RTX 4080 Super, which for me is the perfect all-rounder. It'll do the 4K 120 gaming I need for things like Forza and Cyberpunk, and will easily hit the high FPS I want in games including Valorant. Now you might notice there is some Zotac gaming branding on the side of the 4080 which actually lights up by default, but the first thing I did was actually turn this off in the settings. Later on I will show you all of the other RGB settings as you can turn all of these off as well. As for the processor, it's got the Intel Core i9-14900K, along with two of these 32GB of Corsair Vengeance DDR5 RAM. So that's a total of 64GB in here, which should be more than enough for me. Storage wise, it's got two of these 2TB NVMe SSDs from Samsung, the 990 Pro, and 4TB should be more than enough for one copy of Call of Duty. But I could always increase that as the motherboard has another 3 spare slots. Then we have got to talk about the cooling. So again, I really like that all black minimal look, but I wanted the option to at least be able to switch the RGB on if I wanted to. You know, for certain games I might want to create a different vibe. So we ended up going for the Corsair IQ range. We've got the H150i Elite LCD kit, which comes with an all-in-one liquid cooler. It's got 3 fans which are installed across the top, and that is connected to the CPU cooler, which has also got an LCD screen. And what I like about this is not only does it show you the current temperature, but you can customize this in the settings to display different settings or even add your own image. Now feels like the perfect time to give a nod to Kratos. Then across the front of the Fractal North case, it normally comes with 3 of their own fans, but we've swapped these out to the Corsair as well, so they're all in sync. And the same for the fan on the back. This is a single 120mm fan from Corsair. Again, all of these can be edited in the settings, which I will show you a little later. And you probably wouldn't have noticed this, but under here we've also got an Elgato 4K 60 Pro capture card. Now I actually normally capture all of my PS5 gameplay using one of these. Then I have to take the SD card out and plug that into my Mac. Well, now I can capture it all straight into the PC, which is going to make things so much easier. Then all of that is connected to the motherboard, which is the ROG Maximus Z790 Dark Hero. And if you look on the left side, this has got a huge mirror-like panel, which when it's switched on, it shows the ROG logo. This can also be customized and switched off in the settings as well. Then around the back, it's got loads of ports, including 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports, 6 USB ports, and Wi-Fi 7. And the last thing I want to show you is the power supply, which is the Corsair RM1000X. So you might have noticed the RGB lighting inside the case, which isn't something that I would normally go for. I'm kind of on the fence about this sort of lighting. So we've got the 7 fans, GPU, RAM, LCD screen, which all have different lights. Now although this does look pretty cool, fortunately every single one of these can be customized or switched off entirely. So the GPU can be tweaked in the Firestorm software, either by changing the colours, the animation, or switching it off. The same goes for the fans, LCD screen, and RAM. As these are all Corsair, they can be controlled using the IQ software. So in here it either lets you customize each component separately or as a whole theme. Like I can set the entire PC to blue or yellow, or just go for the full-on rainbow vibe, and this looks absolutely nuts. Oh, and as the keyboard I'm using is also Corsair, that too can be linked to the PC, so all of the colours are part of the same theme. But what I really like about being able to change the colours is I can also go for that proper stealth look by switching all of the RGB off and going full dark mode. I think pairing that with the Fractal North case, and this has that nice clean and minimal vibe going on. It also means if I move to the living room, it almost doesn't look out of place in here. But if I want to create a warm, cozy feel, just change the theme to orange and it looks like this. As for the LCD screen, not only can I change what it displays, like the temperature, the time, and the different colours, as I mentioned, I can even add my own images and GIFs. I'll probably leave this as the temperature, but it's cool to see what is possible with it. Right, so let me show you what I've been playing on here over the last week. I spent a couple of days downloading and playing a pretty wide selection of games to test out, so hopefully these will give you a good idea of how this build is performing. Also, as I play a lot on the PlayStation 5, I had to download some of those games as well. Now I have to say that I normally play it on a controller, but I have tried to use the keyboard and mouse as much as possible in today's video. It's not easy, but I'm definitely willing to give it a go. Now the first thing I had to do was make sure that the monitor is set to 120Hz in the main settings, as by default it is actually set to 60. Also, I was using the GeForce Experience app, but as they now have the Nvidia app, I thought I'd give that one a go instead. This basically acts as a game launcher, keeps your drivers up to date, and has loads of optimization settings for graphics and performance. Okay, so first up I had to try out Cyberpunk. So this is running with all of the default settings in 4K with DLSS Super Resolution on. And as you can see, this looks absolutely awesome. This was literally the first game that I tried out, and I was honestly blown away by just how good it looked. Now if I press Alt and Z, I get the Nvidia app overlay. So in here we can tweak and change any settings on the fly. Or if I press Alt and R, we get the FPS counter on the top right of the screen. So as you can see, I'm hitting around 105 to 110 FPS while in 4K. And it is silky smooth. There's no stutters or screen tearing, and it also looks so nice. I'm actually panning and moving around here to try and demonstrate it to you. And I know you won't be able to see exactly what I'm seeing, but this is super smooth. As for the image quality, well, it's got ray tracing on, so the lighting, reflections and shadows are incredible. Then what I tried doing is dropping this down to 1440p but leaving everything else on, and I was then seeing about 160 to 180 FPS. Personally, I'll be sticking to 4K as I think that's a nice balance between both performance and quality. Now, I mentioned DLSS before, which is Nvidia's Deep Learning Super Sampling Tech. Essentially, it boosts the performance of games using AI. This is able to generate frames or upscale the image from a lower resolution to a higher resolution, so we're getting the same awesome picture quality and able to hit those high frame rates. And then for the sake of testing, I actually tried playing this with DLSS switched off, and the FPS immediately halved, so it shows what a difference this really makes. Another setting I had enabled here was Nvidia's Reflex. This basically reduces the input lag or latency between the keyboard and controller to what's happening on the screen. But yeah, first impressions playing Cyberpunk on PC, I'm really impressed. Then I played a couple of games I would normally play on the PS5, including Spider-Man Remastered and Ratchet & Clank. And let me tell you, I cannot believe how good they looked and played. Spider-Man was the big one for me, so this is already an incredible game and looks great on the PS5, there's no denying that. But loading it up on the PC with all of the settings maxed out and ray tracing enabled, it looked awesome. I also tried it with DLSS on so I could play it with the higher FPS, and it also ran incredibly smoothly. But I can tell you now, it definitely took some getting used to trying to play this game with a keyboard instead of a controller. And then another game I wanted to test out was Alan Wake 2. I'd heard great things about this game. So I made sure that all of the settings were maxed out with either high or ultra, and again Nvidia's DLSS super resolution and frame generation were on. I was then hitting around 120 to 150 FPS depending on where I was walking or moving around. And once again, this looks incredibly good. And then this is how it looks with ray tracing on but still in performance mode. I'm hoping you can see the details that we're getting here, but it runs really well. And then next up was Forza Horizon 5. This is up there with one of my favourite racing games I like to play, mainly because I just mess around in the free roam and never actually do the main missions. So this is set up using the extreme preset, so that's 4K and DLSS quality and frame generation on. And as you can see, we're hitting a steady 115 to 120 FPS with no issues at all. Now, I mentioned earlier that the LG monitor I'm using is capable of 480Hz, so I really wanted to test this out with Valorant. Obviously, I had to drop the resolution down, but on this monitor there's a physical button that when you tap it, it will switch from 4K to 1080p 480Hz mode. Now, I've been playing this on the PlayStation 5, so I'm going to be a little rusty playing this on keyboard and mouse, but just look at that frame rate. Jumping from 120Hz to this is a lot more noticeable than you might think. Now, I could always push the frame rate higher in most of the games that I've been playing, but being able to play 4K 120Hz for me as a console gamer really is the sweet spot. And as both the TV and monitor I'm using both support 4K, it makes sense to keep that 2160p resolution on when I can, and then take the 120 frame rate. So obviously this is my first week gaming on a PC, but I wanted to give you my thoughts so far coming from being a console gamer. Well, the first thing that I found is just how fast some of these games load up compared to the PS5 and the Xbox. Like Cyberpunk, for example, is rapid at loading into the game. The other thing without doubt is the actual game quality and performance. I knew it was going to be better due to the native resolutions and the higher frame rates, but I wasn't expecting it to be quite as obvious. Take Cyberpunk 2077 and Alan Wake 2. The ray tracing and resolution of these games just look incredible. Nvidia giving us that DLSS makes a massive difference to these games that support it. But even with all of the available games, improved performance and quality, there's still the fact that a gaming PC is massive and so much more expensive than a console. I feel like I need to do a serious comparison of PC and console gaming, weighing up the pros and cons for both. But on the plus side, it now means I can test out all future TVs and monitors on the channel with this beast of a PC. Now, I might end up doing a proper desk tour at some point, but here are a few of the other accessories I have on my desk. So first up is the Corsair K70 Pro keyboard. What I like about this is it's all black and it connects to the iQ software. Then I picked up the Logitech Superlight 2 mouse, which so far has been really nice to use. I'm using these both wired, although they do work wirelessly as well. As for the headset, I'm using the Astro A50X, and this is great as it acts like an HDMI switcher if I want to switch between the PS5 and PC and use the audio on both. And as for the desk, well, this is the Secretlab Magnus Pro XL, which is probably the best gaming desk that I've ever used. So there you have it, that is my first ever gaming PC. What do you think? I'm hoping you like it, but I would be interested in hearing your thoughts and if there's anything you would change or add. I am really happy with this, and I think it will look awesome wherever I use it, but I'm already thinking about maybe blacking out the wooden panels on the front or darken them at least. And although it looks nice sitting on top of the desk, I've recently picked up one of these floating PC brackets from Secretlab. This will then let me hang it under the desk, which should look cool. But the only problem is I wouldn't get to see all of this, which would be a real shame. And if you were interested in speccing your own PC, check out the link to a PC specialist below. If you use the code SPAWN, you will get £30 off your order. Plus they ship all over Europe and give you a 3-year warranty on the full build. Now if you drop a nice gaming PC in the comments, I will give you a thumbs up for staying right till the end. And while you're doing that, I'm going to smash out some more Alan Wake 2. And if you enjoyed today's video, check out my desk versus TV setup video next, as I cover the pros and cons of which is best for gaming. Well, thanks for watching, please like, subscribe and follow me everywhere. Until next time.